Solent Overlord is a military-orientated show held during the spring bank holiday in Denmead, Hampshire. Over the course of a 3-day action-packed weekend, the general public get to see approximately 300 military vehicles, 30 reenactment groups and over 100 trade stands. Hundreds of visitors turn up to the show over the course of a 3-day bank holiday to witness military displays, stalls full of army paraphernalia for sale. I was one of the lucky ones who managed to gain access to all areas, including the arena. I was delighted to see various stands full to the brim of artefacts from the Second World War. Each stand had its own take on what the war meant to them in the form of the group. Many tents standing tall with kettles of hot water for making tea, to soldiers displaying their rifles and bombshells. Each item has its own history and its own part. I looked at the German military hospital full of casualties, instruments of torture, pills and potions, just like a hospital would be. There was no shortage of blood as the surgeon walked round the camp with bloodstains on his apron. I managed to talk to the surgeon on the KG 44 unit, who wanted to share with us and myself what it was like. I asked him to tell me more about what he does and what the hospital experiences.
The unit, or the outfit that you see in front of you, represents a German field hospital. Our unit is called KG 44. There's been obviously a field hospital. It would have been an operating theatre under canvas. It would definitely have been in a field, and this field would have looked like a campsite. Out on the grass out there would have been hundreds of stretchers of wounded soldiers, where you would have DRK nurses and orderlies shuffling the stretchers around in order of injuries before they come into the operating tent. Here before you are all the instruments the surgeons would have required to perform such operations on their soldiers coming off a battlefield. And here you have all the creams, potions and lotions required also for such injuries. We have dentistry. Obviously, if you have a facial injury, a jaw injury, the teeth will be needed to be removed. We also have hair clippers for a head injury, so we have access to the wound. There you have, there's a bandage sterilizer. 2 other sterilizers, obviously to sterilize the tooling. There you have a needle sterilizer. A tuning fork. Now, why would you need a tuning fork? When a shell goes off, you've probably seen it, you go deaf. Deafness can last however long it takes. Depends how close you're standing. And all a tuning fork was used for to find the level of deafness in the soldier. Obviously we only have the one, but they would come in boxes of 10 or 20 different sizes. You just ping them, and if the soldier can hear it, he would tell you. Gruesome set of tools, but they are all lifesavers. You have your bone saws, you have your bone cutters, and you have your bone chisels. These tools here, if you make a slight incision in your chest, they will hold the skin out of the way, so the surgeons can go in and sort out what they want. These little gadgets here, if you go deeper, they will hold organs out of the way. And then a chest cavity instrument also used. Then you have your bone nibblers. You have your bone cutters. And you also have a different array of different tools to be able to enter the body to remove items that should not be there. This little gadget here, it's a donation tin. The notes go in the little hole and the coins go in the back. So if you've got 200 Deutschmarks going spare, brilliant. This is living history. All we are trying to do is recreate how it would have been in the 40s.
That was quite an insight as to what happens in a field hospital. I found there was enough on display to look at. Some of the tools they used on emergency procedures looked terrifying. So many tools for so many injuries. This was worth coming to look at, of how much paraphernalia on display and genuine artefacts from World War II. Although the German field hospital dominated the main field, the British soldiers played an important part in winning the war. With the help of Winston Churchill, many British troops pushed forward in the bid to win the war. Here the 4th Wiltshires were asked what they do at the Overlord, representing a British infantry.
We are representing the living history group called the 4th Wiltshires. We're all kind of amateur military historians. We're avid collectors of, in particular, British militaria, and at events like this one here in Denmead, we portray a display representing a typical British infantry battalion and their forward positions during the period 1944 through to the end of the war in 45.
The Americans play an important part during the war. Without them we wouldn't have succeeded in winning. This truly iconic flag flying high in one of the reenactment fields shows homage to the American effort. Here I managed to ask the 101 Airborne Hang Tough 506 US Regiment, who are on display at this highly regarded Overlord event, to say some words about who they are and what they do.
Hello, I'm Tim Perry, and this is part of my group called the Hang Tough 506. We do the 101st Airborne, and I've just got a collection of all my guns and a bit of my webbing and weaponry and stuff we got here today. We do the 101st Airborne because out where I live is where they were stationed during the wartime, around Ramsbury, Orborne, and Little Cut House. So it's the history and where I live. So I just go around all the places there, and you're treading in the footsteps of where all these great soldiers were. So we try to show off all the stuff they had and what they did, and just try to tell their story a little bit. That's kind of why we do the 101st. So this is what we got, or some of my collection anyway.
After walking around towards the next field, I noticed another intriguing camp, the camp of the 116 Panzer Grenadiers. They were quite intriguing. I asked Simon Jones to talk about his group, telling how he formed it, and to explain what the public see whilst coming to the Overlord show.
Hi, I'm Simon Jones, and we do the 116 Panzer Grenadiers. We're of late war period, and we run a field communications post and weapons display. All of this has come about in the last 18 months. We used to belong to another group and decided to go on our own, and me and the wife started out literally 18 months ago on our own, came here first show last year, and everything that we have on the field is what we've put together now and taken on new recruits, and basically we come out and put on what we see on the field now and talk to people as they come around, discuss them everything they're looking at and give them some idea of the actual history and keep it going so they can see what there is.
After speaking with the German 116 Panzer Grenadiers, I spoke to the British Royal Warwickshire Group.
Hi, we're the 1st Battalion of the Royal Warwickshire Regiment. We normally just exclusively focus on the Warwickshire Regiment. For this show we've decided to break with the theme and go with multi-period from about 1912 all the way to 1918, showing the equipment of the mounted soldier, yeomanry and regular cavalry. We've got a living history tent here. All the equipment used is of the period from 1912 to 1918. It's not one set date as such. We can show the evolution of the equipment both that the men carried and we've used in their day-to-day tasks. We've got authentic weaponry, the Hotchkiss light machine gun introduced to the cavalry in 1916, and the standard SMLE rifle that was used throughout the First World War and well into the Second World War. We've been living off authentic rations for the week, mainly hardtack biscuits, trench cake, condensed milk, and our cooker, which we couldn't live without, has been providing us with tea and coffee throughout the event.
The Overlord likes to use the arena for various displays, including showing off vehicles and battles. The military vehicles play a major part of the display arena. There are vehicles from the British, the American and the German armies. The vehicles drive around the arena to give the public a chance to see them in action. The vehicle you see before you is an Elvis Saracen used by the British Army and has been used policing in Northern Ireland since the 1980s. Beside the driver and commander, a section of 8 soldiers could be carried. Most models carried a small turret on the roof complete with a Browning 30 machine gun. If 1 or 2 wheels should be blown off, such as the front, tender or rear, in an explosion, the vehicle was designed to still drive. Here Mark Drill is demonstrating reversing and forwarding movement with its 5 gearbox with an engine in the rear. The Elvis Saladin here, with the German flag flying, is a 6-wheeled armour car. It holds a 76mm gun, registration 07cc70. It's a British vehicle from 1959, weighs 11 tonnes with speeds of up to 72 miles per hour with a crew of 3. The 76mm low-pressure rifle fires shells of 7.62mm rounds, firing a range of 200 metres. This vehicle was exported to the Federal Republic of Germany as part of a British assistance programme in the late 1950s. The driver, Danny Chant, is quite capable of driving this vehicle and is demonstrating the dynamics of its wheels and the dip as each wheel is individually suspended.
It's a Bombardier, Canadian Bombardier Bombi. It's a vehicle that the Royal Marines use, and you can imagine the Royal Marines go to some quite strange places, often market areas, coastal areas, so they're looking for a vehicle with low ground.
The Royal Navy Bombardier BR-100 was specifically designed for use over built-up snow. It has a 1600cc Ford engine and a manual 4-speed gearbox. Was developed for the 14th Winter Olympics to smooth out snowdrifts. Here showing off how it controls itself in awkward holes and dips.
Fairly certain you can all tell me what this is because of the distinctive whistle. Sorry, turbo. It's a 1958 Rio. These are made in 2.5, 5 and 10 ton trucks. It's a fairly standard layout for an American truck, both of that period and indeed almost up to modern day.
This is a 1958 10-ton truck, was built for the American Army, transporting 4-ton loads over terrain in all weathers. There were wrecker, dump and other similar models in the 1930s and during World War II, with the 6 wheels. These trucks were successfully towing heavy goods and artillery and have Hercules RXC engines with a 6-cylinder gasoline reaching up to speeds of 131 horsepower. A model like this one would transport gun crews, equipment, ammunition to places where needed. The highlight of the day is the coming of the various groups in a reenactment held towards the end of the show. Here the Russian and American troops will be fighting with some Germans. Vehicles and soldiers come together to put on the show in the main arena, complete with explosions and gunfire. This is very popular with the public to see the groups in action. Here we start with the Russians with their flags flying, coming into the foreground, and the American vehicles coming into the background to start the battle proceedings.
Followed by a truck, and then we have a standard workhorse of the war. If anybody will know of this position, if you could get your children to hold your hand, infantry follow them on behind. Now, where these guys are going, we're not quite sure. The driver and passenger is still quite vulnerable. And guys on the back car, and now we have
running around the arena getting into position, whilst the Russians are waiting on the sidelines for instructions.
Again, often in advance, quite a few miles, but coming across any opposition. That our American forces are moving without any opposition, and they're making up quite a rather big splash then from the sun on them. I certainly call that the idea.
All military vehicles are moving into the centre of the arena, and now the Russians are moving closer to the American troops.
Forward and cautious both sides.
Meeting and greeting each other, the Allies.
And a handshake between the two commanders, now handshake all round. I think both sides are rather pleased to find the other. Both sides are pleased to speak Russian, or indeed on the Russian side to speak English, but they seem to be getting on quite well together.
The Germans have crept into the arena and getting into position for attack.
Now please keep an eye open for any settling down like happening.
The Germans lie low, and then an American officer starts the proceedings.
As usual, it's set to fall, the standard hurry up and wait, there's just a bit of milling around.
The Germans are waiting for the signal Walker, and attack commences. Gunfiring explosions commence between the German and American.
I knew it. Too quiet. Has the hard truck been hit? It's a big cloud of black smoke. Now there's more fire. But the more things come to one direction, the more fire from another. Massive explosion there. Now we have full arm fire side of flanking the front. There's some fire from both sides. Stay out there. By suggesting informed by our next officer that we have a problem if trucks on our power line step back from the barrier, we will be safe.
The Overlord certainly puts on a show with realistic action that upset the power supply. However, no one was hurt and the battle was stopped. This jam-packed 3 days full of nostalgia, character, militaria bring the wonders of the Solent Overlord wanting more, amongst the hidden treasures of the stalls to the groups who reenact, to a time in the war in educating people into understanding what went on. The 3 days is truly an amazing experience. With the help of the living history groups, demonstrations, vehicles, military enthusiasts, this show wouldn't be possible to teach the next generation.